I am a little afraid that this house in its enthusiasm might perhaps imagine that we are doing more than we are really doing. Let us have a more correct perspective. I believe that we have helped occasionally in regard to the solution of some problems and in the relaxation or lessening of tension. After all, a country's capacity to influence events is determined by various factors. If we have been successful in some measure, the success has been due not obviously to any kind of military strength or financial power, but because we took a correct view of events. We understand that more correctly than others because we were more in tune with the age. We do not have the strength to threaten anybody, nor do we want to. We feel, insofar as international policy is concerned, that right or wrong counts. But it is not the rightness of a proposition that makes it listened to, but rather the person or the country which says so and the strength behind that country. Indeed, it is the internal state of affairs of a country that enables it to speak with some strength, force, and authority in the international sphere. I do not wish to indulge in invidious comparisons, but honorable members can look back at our country as it is today and a number of other countries and decide for themselves how far India has progressed in the last 6 or 7 years compared with other countries. One hears frequently about pacts and military alliances in Europe, in the Middle East, Asia, and elsewhere. I can understand, although I would not approve military alliances between great powers. That would have some meaning, but I do not understand military pacts and alliances between a huge giant of a power and a little pygmy of a country. It has no meaning in a military sense to me. In this nuclear age, the only countries that count from the nuclear point of view are those great countries which are unfortunately in a position to use these bombs. But to attach small countries to themselves in alliance really means that they are becoming very much dependent on these countries. Such associates do not add to their defensive power, for they have little or no military value. I wish to refrain from saying anything which might militate against others. But in this nuclear age, to think of war itself is insanity. Any person who has given thought to it would realize that war today is unthinkable because war is fought to achieve certain results, not to bring ruin on oneself. To talk about warmongers and the rest is completely wrong. There may be some individuals who might want war, but no country wants it. If that is so, what is the value of this policy of military alliances and armaments? It does not logically follow from the first assumption. The development of a thermonuclear bomb has changed the whole picture of fighting today. What might have been good a few years ago is no longer good. The talk that one country has a few more bombs is of no great relevance. The point is that even the country that has less has reached the saturation point, that is, it has enough to cause infinite damage to the other country. There is no real defense against nuclear weapons. You can at best damage or ruin the other country. When you have arrived at a saturation point, you have arrived at the stage of mutual extermination. Then the only way out is to prevent war to avoid it. All talk of reduction of armaments, good as it is, does not help much. That is the first point we should remember. Secondly, we must consider what use alliances and pacts really have in this age of nuclear warfare. They do not help in a military sense, though psychologically they may. I am not asking these countries to disband their armies or their air forces. The only effect of these pacts and alliances is to hold a kind of threat. These threats are being thrown about by both the power blocks. But even this business of threatening through military pacts has become obsolete in this nuclear age. We cannot threaten a big power which has nuclear weapon, for it is not likely to be threatened. You can at best threaten small countries. Today we have reached a certain balance, a very unstable balance, where any kind of major aggression is likely to lead to a world war. That itself is a restraining factor. Whether aggression takes place in a small country or a big one, it tends to upset the unstable balance in the world and is therefore likely to lead to war. It is because of this that in the Geneva Conference there was so much argument about the Indochina states. Either of the major parties was afraid that any of these states linked up with or was coerced into joining one group, it would be to the advantage of the other. They wisely decided that Indo-China states should remain neutralized. If you extend the argument, you will see that the only way to avoid conflicts is to accept things as they are. No doubt, many things require to be changed, but you must not think of changing them by war. War does not do what you want to do, it does something much worse. Further, by enlarging the area of peace, you reduce the chance of war. The policy adopted by India and followed consistently during the last few years has been appreciated by many countries. We are following it because we are convinced that it is the right policy. Ours is a positive policy and we follow it with conviction and faith. Talking of India only, we have fairly clear ideas about our political and economic structure. We function in this country under a constitution which may be described as a parliamentary democracy. We propose to continue with it. We intend to function on the economic plate, that too in our own way. Every country has a right to choose its own path and go along it. We propose to go along it not at somebody's dictate but on our own strength.